video this week is Dario Argento's new film, Dark Glasses. I'm assuming this is going to be his final film because he's in his 80s now. And it's one of those films you think, oh, please retire. Please, no more. No, just retire. Because Argento, I was a massive Argento fan. I still am a massive Argento fan. But there's a certain point you have to admit to yourself, it pretty much is opera. Opera, all the way up to opera, he's doing some great stuff. Even the kind of really weird phenomena film is interestingly odd. Opera's great. Two Evil Eyes is an interesting little weird film to follow up from opera. But before that, I mean, you've had like Bird of the Crystal Plumage, Four Flies in Grey Velvet, Deep Red, Suspiria, Inferno, Tenebrae, Phenomena, Opera. These are all terrific. These are great examples of the genre, great examples of filmmaking. And then he seemed to lose something. We made Trauma after Two Evil Eyes, which I enjoyed, but you can tell it wasn't peak Argento, but it wasn't terrible. It was just like, it felt like one of those middling films he was trying to do a film in English. It felt like, okay, this is a director refocusing in a new decade, and he'll probably jump back after that and do something really good. He's just kind of a bit wobbly. But then it just followed up with some stranger films. You had the Phantom of the Opera, which was, I liked, but it was odd. It was really odd. There was the one with his daughter, but that was driving you mad. That was another odd one. But again, in 90s Argento, it still was watchable weird. But it was obviously a director had gone down quite a notch from where he was. But it was still weird. You were still hoping for a comeback. Like, maybe he's just going a bit odd for a bit, trying stuff out, and they'll come back with great stuff later. You're really hoping that was the case. Then you had stuff like Sleepless, which was boring. And it's just kind of, he did the Dracula film that was weird. Again, another one I enjoyed, but it was weird. You had the Mothers of Tears, the final Three Mothers film that was just a disaster. And he's just a director who just seemed to lose his way. So he's brought himself back with, he did Giallo, which he said wasn't his cut of it. So Dark Glasses is a professionally made film, I've got to give it that, but it's a fairly boring film. It really is pretty tedious. Because it's the two films in one, and the films do not lock together at all. One film is his traditional slasher film, psycho guy going around killing women. The thing that probably got the money for the film is this element. But it kills the rest of the film because the thriller elements aren't interesting. You know who the killer is almost instantly. So there's no suspense there. The murders are pretty gratuitous and horrible, but they're not like wonderfully done. They're just like, they're not peak Argento, because you don't feel he's that interested. He's trying to make it look gross so you could feel something for it, but you do feel like there's nothing inventive, because his imagination is not there anymore. And it's really a story about this prostitute who's one of the intended victims, who escapes from him in a car crash, and because of that she goes blind. Because of injury she goes blind, and the car she crashed into was driven by this Chinese couple. Both parents are killed, and the little boy is sent to an orphanage. She feels guilty, and she starts to bond the kid. The kid comes to her house and hides from the orphanage there because he wants to stay with her rather than deal with the orphanage and all the bullies that he's dealing with. And it's the bond between these two that's like central to the film, which would have been fine if that was what was going on and that was a story, and you could focus on that. As women who had to become blind, just to make money and become a blind prostitute, you're dealing with this little kid. That's an interesting story. The serial killer film isn't, but they have to interact constantly, and every time you go to serial killer bit, you're like, this is boring. Who's going to kill now? I don't care. And anytime you've got the kind of prostitute bit, it's more interesting, or the bit with the kid's more interesting. But it's not amazing. It's fine. It's a decent enough film, but you wish that was a film. and it'd be a little. Because basically the story could be she's in a car crash and she's dealing with guilt, and that would have been it, and no serial killer. It would have been a much better film. It really would have been. Instead, you've got psycho stuff that doesn't work. You've got all these scenes going on of chasing and stuff, and Argento's doing his big music stuff, and that's enjoyable to listen to. It's well done, but there's nothing new happening. It's just stuff you've seen before in other films, and especially in rip-offs of Argento, there's nothing there. It feels like a film he produced rather than directed, which is the problem with his films a lot of the time since the 90s. Except for the weird ones. The weird ones, you look at Argento films, the bland ones that Sleepless Fully are produced by him, not directed. And this one feels produced by him. But he seems to like the kid and the prostitute's relationship. Because it is interesting, but it's never given time to develop because you've got this other psycho thriller thing to do. And because you're waiting for that to kick in, because it's an Argento film, and it's advertised as a thriller, you're getting impatient with the other stuff because you're waiting for the psycho stuff to come in. But the thing is, because you can know who the killer is, and you can see all the plot developments a mile away, and as they come and hit exactly how you think they're going to hit, and nothing's done with any real visual panache, you get less and less drawn in, really. I mean, it does pick up a little bit towards the end as they've gone round this kind of forest area, the killer nearby, and civilians getting killed by the killer. There are elements there that are interesting, and how they get rid of the killer is interesting. There's nice little bits in there towards the end, but by that point the damage has been done as a thriller. There's been not enough thrills, there's been not enough development. The thriller element's totally rote, it's not got any pizzazz to it, and it's just dull. So it's like, I just hope he stopped doing thriller stuff because it's not there anymore. You can tell it's not his passion anymore. You can tell that he does not want to be doing this. And it's one of those films like, why are you up so early in the morning to do this film if you're in your 80s? Because there's nothing there that you really couldn't just have produced. I mean, but his interest does seem to be this other part of the film. It's not a thriller. And that's the bit that's worth seeing. But that could have just been a short film. It could have been a 30-minute short film and it would have been a much better, experience. It could have been done for TV and it would have worked so much better. But you've got all this other stuff in here, and it's just a case of, it's like, you kind of hope that Argento just retires now, because his passion for the genre that he made his name in is no longer there. It's just not there. There's just nothing there that really gets you going as a thriller watcher. You just think there's just nothing here that's fascinating me. There's just nothing original. There's no nuances he's got anymore. He's used up all his best ideas, and he's had to do this to get the financing, and it's getting to be the film. So that's the depressing part of it. It's just like, you just tell this a career coming to his end, and it's like many other directors. I mean, I did Domino a few years ago, video on Domino, where De Palma had some producing issues, and the film it came out wasn't what he wanted. And it's like the same feeling. It's like, but the thing in the De Palma film, at least it had some good suspense sequences in it, and you still see the talent there. This one, it's like, you're not seeing the talent, it just feels like very vaguely shot stuff. You don't see the passion there at all. So it's basically compromised by the writing before you go anywhere. Because it's all professional how it's all shot. Everyone knows what they're doing in the film, it's just that the story's not there. Which is a shame. But you've got Argento up to the early 90s. You've got all those films to watch again and again. They're always getting re-released. They're all wonderful. They're all definitely worth seeing. And even his 90s films, they may be disastrous in some ways. They may be really weird, but they should get proper Blu-ray 4K releases so you can see them, how weird they are and how fun they are. Because they are uniquely odd. No one but Argento would have made these films. But recently, in the 2000s onwards, he just seems to have completely lost his way. It's like, you just feel the lack of passion, and it's a real shame. You just wish he would just stop. He's got his reputation, but he doesn't need to do any more films now. He's very set up. So that's me, that's it. I can't say any more about it. It's just like I'm just going to repeat myself, but not one to spend a lot of money on this one. This one is kind of a failure. It's a shame, but that's what it is. So that's me for now. I'll see you in a week or two. Right, bye.